Okay, so a little bit about Locke. Um, Once again, Professor Brown's lecture is very good, but I want to emphasize some things that he's not emphasizing and kind of take it from a different perspective. Not disagreeing with anything he says, just taking it from a little bit of a different angle. All right, so Locke's main issue is that he does not believe in innate ideas, which, if you look at Descartes, that was one of the key things of his argument, was God is an innate idea. I think, therefore, I am as an innate idea. Innate meaning, like built into your consciousness from when you're born. He believed in this notion, Descartes believed in this notion of innate ideas. Locke rejects that. He says, there's no such thing as an innate idea, period. No way. One thing to caution here is Locke is not talking about instincts, because Locke was a medical doctor and a very smart man, and he's not an idiot. He knows people have instincts. So we're not talking about a full-blown idea. So, a newborn baby will cry when it's hungry, but a newborn baby is not going to think to itself, hey, I'm hungry. I wonder how I could get attention. I think I'll cry. That's not going to happen. Okay. We're talking about a much more robust, I guess, intellectual experience than simply instinct. So, okay. All right. So he's rejecting the notion of innate ideas. All ideas come from experience. That is the motto. That is the whole thing. All ideas come from experience. That is the big empiricist pitch, if you will. And Locke, and there were, as the professor mentioned, there are precursors to this notion, Hobbes and others. But Locke really came out more forcefully and explicitly about this. All right, so I also really should note, Locke doesn't disagree with Descartes about a lot of things. Locke really agrees with Descartes on quite a few things. Mental substance and material substance, he's on board with that. It is this notion of innate ideas and the difference between where knowledge comes from. This is an epistemological issue. Okay, so ideas come from experience. There's two types of experience for Locke: sensation and reflection. And he mentions that people are born as a tabula rasa, which means a blank slate. In other words, and I should caution, not born, but come into existence as a tabula rasa. As you'll see, if you really read Locke, he's pretty subtle about this, because he actually makes allowances for the fact that you might even get experiences before you're born, like in the womb. But when you come into existence, you have no ideas, none, no ideas. There's no such thing as an innate idea, period. All ideas come from experience. They're either external experiences or they're internal experiences of the mind. And when he talks about ideas of reflection or internal experiences, he's talking about thinking about how you think. Often that's what he's talking about. But actually, probably much more common is emotions, feelings, hunger, love, hate, that kind of thing. Those are internal experiences, but they're also experiences. They're not innate. You're not born with them. You have them in your life. Okay. So everything comes from experience. That's the motto. Everything comes from experience. That's the gist of this. But specifically, he wants to point to specific experiences. So a feeling of love, a feeling of hate, but also a sensation from your external senses. And that would be, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, those things. Specifically, like you smell this, you see that, you hear this. Those kind of experiences, like very direct, specific experiences, not like general experiences of you saw a baseball game. No, yes, I guess, but I mean, what did you see? What did you hear? What did you smell? What did you touch? What did you taste? That's the kind of experiences he's talking about. Now he has a few arguments to support this. Well, he's got quite a few arguments to support this, and the professor he starts his lecture with this. I'm going to mention a couple. One is that if you grew up without experiencing a certain, like having direct experience of a certain thing, like red or green, you would have no idea of red or green. Like, say you're blind, you would never know what red or green is. Or the taste of a pineapple or an oyster, you would have no idea what a pineapple or an oyster tasted like. How could you ever know unless you experience it? You can only know through experiencing that phenomenon. One thing this does not do justice to, this argument, that is that Locke implies strongly, and you can kind of get it from the reading, that you can indeed learn things from other people. Okay, so it's not, you don't have to personally experience every single thing in the world. You can have other people tell you what red looks like, what an oyster tastes like. But it is not the same thing, and I guess everybody would probably grant that. I mean, if you were blind and someone tried to describe what red is, what are they going to say? It's hot? I mean, it's not the same thing. And how would you, and an oyster taste like snot? I don't know. Pretty hard to describe what an oyster tastes like. I mean, but you can get information from other people about your senses that has to do with the senses. I've never seen the Eiffel Tower. I've never been there. I've seen pictures, people have described it to me. They sensed it, and then they communicated it to me. And, Locke is not ruling that out. It's not like you can't know anything about the Eiffel Tower just because you haven't personally experienced it. You can get knowledge from other people that have experienced it. He's not very good about this. I'm just going to flat out say that. He's not good about explaining how that works. Okay, moving on. Let me say, I'm not going to talk about paying attention. You can read it. Or motion. Let's see. Second argument for empiricism against innate ideas is that you can tell by watching children grow up. This is kind of an obvious one. When you're born, you don't know anything, or hardly anything. And as you get older, you learn things. Pretty good argument. He says, this goes back to what I was saying about maybe having experiences in the womb. Thinking begins when sensing begins. So that doesn't mean that you have to be born. I guess you could probably have experiences in your mother's womb, hearing your mother likes to play Beethoven or something. I don't know. But whatever, essentially, thinking begins when sensing begins. But the point of that really is that until you sense something, this is Locke's idea here, until you sense something, experience something, there's nothing to think about. You have no ideas until you sense something. And that's the key thing here. He thinks that ideas of reflection come later, they're more sophisticated. Then he says the mind is mostly passive in this process and can't avoid having simple ideas. And by simple ideas, he means one uniform appearance. Okay, here's where things get a little tricky.